You're tuned in to the 3 Pixels podcast. Hello and welcome back to the 3 Pixels podcast. We're here with another episode for your ears, and I am joined by the wonderful Darby and Martin. Darby, how's it going?
It's going great, thanks. How are you?
Going very well, thank you. And Martin, how's it going?
Feeling wonderful, Ben.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, feeling wonderful.
Good. That's what I like to hear. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the incredibly popular and now the number one most popular app, which is TikTok. Love it or hate it, which I know there's a varied amounts of opinions in this podcast group alone. TikTok has taken the whole world by storm in its own way. It came out of Musical.ly, which people hadn't really heard of as much and weren't really into, and rebranded as TikTok out of ByteDance in China. It's taken over a little bit and sort of everyone's talking about it. So before we get into kind of the news and stuff, what's the general consensus here on TikTok?
For me, TikTok is a problematic fave. I understand that it has a lot of issues, especially with its algorithm and shadow banning and general discrimination, but I also can't help but love it. The thing of it is that it's so good at targeted content that it gets me better than anybody else does in terms of like social media, not
that
people.
Is the scary thing about it.
Yes, it's scary, but it's also so addictive because it knows exactly my sense of humor. And so it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. If it gets banned, I will probably be very sad.
Yeah, I kind of share a lot of that. Out of the three of us, and we'll get to Martin's stance in a moment, I was sort of the early adopter out of it, which I usually am because anything that's new and tech related, then I take a bit of an interest in it. And it does suck you in. I mean, YouTube has had problems with its algorithm for so long, and it's still very problematic. And TikTok nailed it from the start. When you first start, you get shown essentially what is the most popular things out of the whole of TikTok. And then from that, they're seeing what you're skipping past and what you're watching. And then they really just build up this feed of things that you're interested in. And it is built to keep you sucked in, obviously, and it does that incredibly well. I mean, it is a big time suck, but yeah, the way that it has managed to curate stuff that you want to watch and show you, it is unlike anything else.
What else I appreciate about TikTok is that in comparison to other websites and other social media entertainment platforms, they have so few ads. I've talked before about Facebook having so many ads that it's just sickening. And YouTube has ads almost in front of every single video, in the middle of videos, at the end of videos, on the scroll bar. Like, they have ads everywhere as well. But TikTok, it has one when you first open it up. I don't think it has any more than that. Or if they do, they're very far and few between.
Advertisers have got very clever into integrating kind of ads within content itself. And it's always very subtle. And I was actually watching a piece of content recently talking about how China has managed to use TikTok to just very subtly put out spheres of influence into saying that, oh, China's a really good place to be. And you might have seen some of these TikToks listening now, and you'll get what I'm on about, but probably didn't register about it. But you often see these TikToks from people saying about, oh, these are neat ways that Chinese homes are different, or these are some really cool Chinese food, or this is a little bit of Chinese culture. And I've seen it before, like, oh, this is a tiny home that's in somewhere in China, and these are all the cool, neat tricks that we have in our tiny home. And actually, a lot of this content is paid for or promoted by the Chinese authorities to say to these creators, hey, make content about China. And through then obviously putting out spheres of influence to say to people, oh, look, isn't China great? We have these things. TikTok is the global facing part of this app, but then there's another version of the app which is only in China. And the app version that's only in China is far less subtle about propaganda for China. It is like up there really high, like as in, you know, saying how great China is, you know, we are the best in the world, blah, blah, blah. Like they're the next level of of propaganda. So it's really interesting to see. And I think that same kind of thing happens with advertisers, that they're looking at how can we subtly integrate rather than relying on just full-blown ads. But yeah, you're right. I mean, on the surface level, at least, there's far less ads, which is obviously helping people be encouraged to use the app more because they're not feeling like they're constantly being advertised to. Martin, as someone who hasn't downloaded the app yet, I'll be keen to know your thoughts and maybe the reason why.
Thank you, Ben. Honestly, I've been a little stewing over here while listening to you both praise a little bit of TikTok and what you admire about it. The thing is, Ben is right. I have not downloaded it. And the simple reason is I see a lot of like compilation videos on YouTube. Some of them are dancing. Some people are like miming songs. So I've only seen probably a small proportion of what TikTok actually is. And I understand that. I find it really, I hate using this word, but very cringy and very just something I don't find entertainment or enjoyment over. To me, it's not aimed at someone like me. I don't really want to watch those sort of compilations that much. And I understand there is something for everyone there, but it's just something that I've never took an interest in. I'm very late to these sort of apps anyway, and I've never really been full-blown into these apps that have been around.
I think this would be a really interesting experiment. Can I set you a task? And I think you know what it's going to be. I think you should download it, and I think you should give it a try. And I think we should check back in to see if you've changed your mind, because I'm really keen to see if there's a chance that it would convert you just from the way that the algorithm works. And I think it could. Would you be willing to give it a go for the experiment of the podcast? Because I think it actually would be really interesting.
I think you're right. I think maybe I should experience it, because it's quite easy to be on one side of the fence where I've never used it. And I think it's quite
narrow-minded.
Yeah, I think it is quite narrow-minded. I think it's very blinkered to think I've only been exposed to a third-hand party, which is YouTube compilations of it. People who I listen to on YouTube and other like media sources say how boring and, so we say, wretched the app is. So I've only been fed by people who think like me, I should say, because you never really go and listen to YouTubers that are completely contrast to you. With that in mind, of course, I think for the podcast's sake, I would be interested, and we could see if it does change my mind.
I think you should do it right now, because then I know you'll do it, because I know what you're like. You'll forget. And you know I'm right in that.
Yes.
So, Darby, what do we think? You should give it a go, right?
100%, absolutely. And then he
Just
can
for the
be an ad
experiment.
just like us.
Yeah, it's the one that says TikTok, mate. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I don't want to start dodgy. I don't want to start downloading dodgy stuff or anything.
So the reason we're talking about it today on this podcast, even though it is seemingly an important part of pop culture at the moment, it is very popular around with lots of different people and being adopted by different ages as well now, not just the younger generation. India decided to ban TikTok from all devices on their users, and in fact called in Apple and Google to ensure that it's fully removed from the App Store. So it is banned. And now the US administration is also considering the same thing. This is over growing fears that TikTok is being influenced by China and being affected by the Chinese government's general regime and the way that they generally do treat companies and have a major control over them. And also the fact that TikTok isn't fully open about all their data policies and everything else, and whether the app could be or is already being abused. Now, the only thing that I've seen or read about evidence-wise in regards to this was when the iOS 14 beta came out. Now, Apple's making a big push to let customers know in iOS 14 when apps are using data and when they're not. Things like having a dot show on the top of your screen, even when you're not in the app, if an app is using your microphone or camera, and then also letting you know more frequently when system resources or system clipboards and stuff are being accessed by apps. And it came about very quickly that when you weren't using TikTok, that TikTok was reading your clipboard, so was reading things that you'd copied and pasted outside of the app. TikTok said that this was a bug that was related into iOS 14, so they fixed it. Whether it was a bug or not, no one really knows. But it is bringing up a bigger question, and Amazon has reacted and as putting out a notice for all of their employees to remove TikTok from their devices because of these concerns, we could quickly see, TikTok suddenly being nowhere from its sudden popularity. What do we feel about all this?
I felt like I was pretty safe before I now downloaded this app because of you.
You're screwed now. Yeah, we wanted you to, if we're all going down, we're going down together.
Okay. First, I'd like to say, it feels like we talk a lot about apps or companies retrieving people's data without knowledge, and it's still a problem even now. And we've covered this with many other things here on the podcast, like I just said. And I can understand like companies like Amazon would be very worried about TikTok going through potential personal data and employees' data, and that is a whole different storm altogether. I'm assuming this is quite heavily tied with the Chinese government as well, or do we not know that?
I mean, this is the thing. We don't really know. ByteDance, who's the parent company, they are based out of China. They have a Chinese variant of the app. TikTok itself is in Hong Kong, where China are trying to put their authority. There's been a lot in the news with that, with the UK trying to get involved. And there's a lot of political uneasiness going on right now in Hong Kong. And the fear is that China will have their way and they will be able to oppose these restrictions and control over TikTok. I mean, as far as the Chinese government's probably concerned, TikTok being so popular is a major resource for them. And I assume that they want to use it. There's been nothing major in terms of hard evidence, but it's this general uneasiness that's seemingly setting in. And I mean, I think it would only take some of the major governments like the US to make a decision on this. And I feel like it's going to be the start of the end, personally.
Let's just say the Chinese government have nothing to do with it. But already the seeds are sown. As I've seen on some news reports that some people are claiming that the Chinese government have a hand in it in some way. And that's all you really need to derail any sort of popular media format out there. With TikTok, if you feel like there's this spying going on and the Chinese are directly towards it, it reminds you of the Cold War with the communism, the Red Menace sort of scheme, where anything could be communist or anything could be seen as communist. And with this, it's like, oh, it's all Chinese government or all this fear mongering upon it. And I would be interested to see what actually happens in the coming weeks or months and to see what investigation actually digs up.
My conspiracy theory is that privacy rights and the Chinese government are being used as scapegoats. And actually the reason that Donald Trump specifically hates TikTok is because of what we covered in an earlier podcast just recently about how people have been using it to undermine his campaign. And it's something that he can't control, as well as other platforms. And personally, I think that he has a personal vendetta against TikTok entirely.
Yeah, I think that's an entirely valid point. There are two sides to the story. And, unfortunately, we kind of entrust news sources these days. A lot of them have an agenda to cover. TikTok came along to a social media world that was US dominated. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, the biggest ones out there, all American based, American data centers, American run. Suddenly, there's a Chinese one in the market. It's eating up market share. It's outside of US jurisdiction. Suddenly, I feel like there's a problem. Because let's not fool ourselves here. Let's not forget, the US government isn't really any better. There's no doubt in my mind that the US government could access anyone's data on any of these social media platforms if they wanted to. Lots of stones get thrown saying, well, this is a Chinese thing. They'll snoop on all your data. They'll do this, that, and the other. Let's not fool ourselves. Companies like Google and Facebook collect a ton of our data. And I wouldn't believe for a second that they would fight the US government against handing it over in the right way. That's why I'm not really kind of jumping up and being, afraid of it, because until I see hard evidence that what they're doing is worse than what else is going on and what snooping is going on and data collection is going on, then why are one people worse than the other? Because it's all an agenda. The minute you're involved online, the minute you do anything digitally these days, you have a footprint, you have a means of being tracked. So I think you have a real point, Darby. I think that it's something that's changing the whole social media platform. It's kind of funny in a way because Trump really started a lot of all this through social media, through his campaign, through the use of people like Cambridge Analytica. using social media to influence how we vote and to find voters and to make them feel a certain way and to go a certain way. And now there's a major social media platform that isn't in their jurisdiction, and it feels a little bit funny, really. It feels a little bit off that suddenly, he's had this big vendetta against social media, which, arguably helped get him in the place that he is right now.
Yeah, it does seem coincidental that as soon as a whole bunch of kids on TikTok reserved seats for his Tulsa rally and made him look like an idiot, suddenly he wants to shut down TikTok. That does seem a little fishy to me.
He's a very reactionary guy as well. He is the type of person that if something upsets him, he's straight on the offensive.
This actually reminds me of a TV show called Futurama, if anyone here remembers it at all. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up, right? There was an episode where Richard Nixon was going to run for the president of the world, and he was never really challenged. And this new guy come in and started gaining a lot of support. And in the end, Richard Nixon said, we need to find some dirt on this guy, try and find anything. And this sort of reminds me of a little. It almost reminds me of like, let's try and dig up anything we can. And as soon as they run out their resources or they can't find anything, they just go, well, where's it based from? Oh, it's China. Well, Donald Trump doesn't like China. And in his rally speeches and how he got elected, he was talking about China. So it was a perfect scapegoat. So let's just say tomorrow, TikTok is gone. You're not allowed to download it here in the Western world, or at least, we say, North America. You can no longer download TikTok. I would be interested to see what the backlash would actually be right now, because I think for a lot of people, TikTok has been a bit of an escapism from the misery of the world right now. So I do wonder what the backlash would be if TikTok went, especially in such a tense world we live in right now.
The thing of it is that Americans in particular are so individualist and they're so focused on personal freedoms that I think that the idea of being told that we can't do something, we cannot use this app, I think that's going to be wildly unpopular just because we hate being told that we can't do something. That is the absolute worst thing that you can tell an American is, no, you can't. We value our individual rights and freedoms above just about anything.
I just want to say as well, just in case people misunderstand, especially my view, and I think it is the view of all of us here as well. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but we totally respect and feel that privacy and our data is important, and that if this is what is going on, then it is not right. And it's just as not right as what Google and Facebook do. And we've talked about Facebook plenty on this podcast. It's happening in many different places, and we can't start throwing stones at one without looking at the rest of us. It's contradictory to say, hey, TikTok's the bad guy here, whereas look at your own privacy policies. We know we don't read them. We sign up to these services, and they're collecting all kinds of things. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's fine if all of this is going on. I'm just saying that needs to be a whole change as everyone, and this is a whole movement as a whole, rather than just pinning it all on one app, especially in what seems to be a political move rather than a beneficial move for people. It seems to be very politically charged than anything else. The India one is a perfect example of it being politically charged. There has been a lot of tensions between India and China. Apple have actually started manufacturing of some products in India, and there's been big issues with parts coming from China into India. Essentially, India have been searching through every single package going through, and it's been holding everything up because they're paranoid. So TikTok being banned is definitely not a coincidence in all that. So let's not fool ourselves. This is definitely politically charged. It's not for the benefit of the people.
I think all I just want to say is, not just to companies, but to everyone, is about maybe we should start reading some T's and C's, maybe, to see what's actually going on and where this is going. It reminds me, I believe on the 360, I'm sure it said something after like 8 or 9 pages. It said, I'm sure you're not reading this. It was like a little joke in the T's and C's that someone posted. I can't remember if it was faked or whatever, but things like that. How many of us really do read the T's and C's? And do we know what we're really signing up for? Especially this whole thing with internet browsers now. When you go on a website, it'll come up with like, here are our partners. Do you want to sign up to them so they can trace what you're looking at and all that sort of stuff? And it's amazing to think how much we've actually given up when you really think about it in terms of personal privacy and data. And I know I've played foul to it. I know I've probably signed up to things that maybe I should have read thoroughly, because I have no idea what is going on with my data right now.
Yeah, I mean, and Cambridge Analytica should have been the wake-up call when they could have achieved both things on the Brexit campaign and on the Trump campaign with all that data. That should have been a big wake-up call, but unfortunately it wasn't. It was back to the same status quo. So I know we praise Apple a lot, and I don't want us to seem like Apple is what we push a lot, because I just think that in this situation, and a lot of these situations we're talking about, Apple seem to be doing the right moves. And iOS 14 is a clean example of that. Don't get me wrong, they could be doing more. They could be making it more prominent. But on the app pages before you download, something we've come to accept in the food industry is that we have a nutritional bit that tells us exactly just the facts we need to know about what's in our food before we buy it. Could be a bit clearer in some situations, but generally speaking, we know what's in our food, what's printed on there, what if it's really bad for us or not, for sure. And Apple are doing that same thing with a little fact sheet. So it's going to show you what data they're going to collect and what they do with it. And it's going to become mandatory that all apps have this fact sheet on the page, so that then you can quickly at a glance make a decision on how bad this app really is for your digital health, just as much as the food one would be for your physical health. And that's really interesting. I think they should go a step further, and I think that there should be more of a standard that when you're clicking to install it, it should come up and go, this app is doing this, this, and this. Are you happy with that? Like, accept or deny. Do I want to download it? Do I not want to download it?
More has to be done. More has to be easier for people to understand. Like here in the UK, I'm not too sure about out of field. We have on your food packets how much you should eat a day. It's like a red, amber, green system like you were talking about. And it says like how often you should have these things. They made that very simple for us here in the UK, because we're here in the UK and obviously across the world, we want things ready to go. Bang, 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 quick information. So I think you have to put that into these apps of quick information. Hey, is this good? Is this going to go against my privacy or whatever it's you're trying to portray? You need to be quick, snappy. So even the simplest person like myself going on these Apple stores, because I know very little about them, I want to understand it fully, clearly, and concisely.
Well, I think part of the problem is that T's and C's read like stereo instructions, to quote Beetlejuice. I think that in order to have an effective system, it'll have to be exactly what you said, clear, concise, and in simple, straightforward language that anyone will be able to access. If you're using fancy, flowery legalese, you're going to run into the exact same problem. So it needs to be something that the average person is going to be able to read and understand exactly what it means. But yes, I absolutely agree. It should be much more easily accessible to find out exactly what you're signing up to.
Just gives people the power of choice. And I think that is the key thing here. And I think Apple have done a great thing by implementing that into the App Store in the new update. I think it could be more prominent, and I think it should be there right at the point of install to say, hey, this is what's going on.
Do you want to look at some of these terrible videos then?
Yeah, why not, man? Let's do a little live introduction to TikTok to end up the episode.
I will say I'm a little worried. When I first opened it up, it was some girl sitting on a bed wiggling in a white shortcut dress. So I'm a bit worried at first. So here we go.
So obviously, at first start, these would be a bit more random.
Yeah, of course. So this is about a
take over
guy.
time.
Looks like he's combing Donald Trump's hair. Okay. That was pretty cool, actually. Not gonna lie. That was actually pretty cool.
It started.
It was genuinely pretty cool. Not gonna lie. We probably have to edit all this like music and stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Like pretty much, this guy is surfboarding on a set of a surfboard. He's literally jumped on it, gone all across his pool, and sat down where his work is. That is actually pretty sick.
We're doing a video app on a podcast. I just want to make us clear on that.
All jokes aside, though, I have discovered so much new music from small artists on TikTok. One of my favorite new songs is by Avenue Beat, and I've listened to it probably 20 billion times, and I now know every single word, and I would not have discovered that band without TikTok.
And I agree with that. There's been a lot of popularity in songs that might not have seen the same fame because of something like TikTok. So it has been very good for lots of different talent and artists and stuff to get out their music in a new and interesting way, because you see a little clip of it. You're not feeling like you're investing much of your time. And then if it's popular enough, it finds its way into lots of different elements and people reuse that music in different ways. Like when Musically, the former app first started as, then it's brought fame to a lot of people. And that's been really cool to see. All right, so we're back after a little break where Martin has had a chance to give TikTok a brief try, although he has committed that he will continue it up for the next week and we will check back in the next podcast, so stay tuned for that one. But after a brief few minutes, what has been your initial thoughts? Keeping in mind that we've heard you laughing at quite a few of them.
Well, yeah, obviously I'll tell the truth here, how I honestly feel. There were a couple that, I would say really did make me laugh. And as I was listening to them, I did ask Ben, this app reminds me of one before, and he did say it was Vine, and I was like, yes, of course. And that instantly came to mind straight away after watching a couple of these. But here's what I honestly truly think. Yes, there are a couple of videos I did think, that's pretty funny, but there were a couple I thought, either thought what was going on, thought that was a bit mean, or genuinely I just thought whatever. And I quickly realized, I think it instantly knew that I was a guy in some capacity, because all of a sudden, it was a lot of males, a lot of just funny, goofy stuff. And all of a sudden, I got a load of, I'll say, attractive women on there who were probably around my sort of age. And all of a sudden, it was people wearing mini dresses and stuff. And I was just like, I don't really care how attractive you are. I just want to see something funny more than, oh, this is how to make your bum look big in a picture. And that's what I got of one of them. And that's when the moment I thought, it clearly knows I'm a guy of some sort. I think because it knew what my selections, I think I put sport, gaming, and mildly satisfying. So two of them are predominantly male orientated. I think that's fair to say. So I think it knew instantly what I was. And I was really happy that one of them was absolutely fabulous, though. One of them was just the audio of Absolutely Fabulous. And I think that's a superb, lovely TV show, which actually makes me want to go watch Absolutely Fabulous after this. So that's probably what I'll be doing tonight at some point. I'm amazed at its algorithm. I'll put that out there now. I was very, very pleased with that. But genuinely,
but it's early days.
Mixed. And yeah, we are doing this for a week, as we said. So this is how I see it mapping out. So on recording today, it's Saturday, right? By Tuesday, I think my things will be very fine-tuned to what things I actually like and what I spend most time on. And I'll try and like a couple of videos as well, because I think that's also part of the game as well. And by probably Friday, I might be hooked with it. I don't know yet. Could be. And then by Saturday, I'll give you my full results. But so far, very mediocre. I'm very sorry to say.
So I will leave you with that thought to ponder about how much TikTok and the internet may know about you. I'd like to say thank you very much for listening to this episode. We hope you've enjoyed listening just as much as we've enjoyed putting it together for you. And before we say goodbyes, I just want to do a quick note to let anyone know that may have been wanting to buy us a coffee. There's a link in the description. We did have a slight technical issue with the whole process, but it seems to be fixed and all good to go. So if you'd love to support us, you don't have to. You are welcome to buy us a coffee, and the links are in the show notes below. But with that, thank you very much for listening. Again, couldn't do it without my two wonderful, amazing co-hosts. Thank you to Martin and Darby.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are very welcome, Martin. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, so you never miss another episode. And follow our social media, all the links in the show notes below. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you and goodbye.
See ya.
See you next time.